From 1953 to 2024, Thypoch has recreated one of the most famous 50mm f2 lenses in 35mm format. This is the Eureka 50mm f2. Let's talk about it. It was a very popular lens. 50mm back in the day was very popular for a lot of photographers because it was closest to what our eye sees. 43mm is pretty much the exact focal length if you're going to convert it to 35mm format, but 50mm is close enough. And we saw this lens used by Henri Cartier-Bresson and a lot of other photographers back then. Now, the L39 version of this from Leica has radioactive elements. You still can buy that lens today, but you might come across lenses that have haze or fungus. You know, they weren't designed to be used 70 years later, but you can find some good ones out there. And I don't want to call it a copy because it's more of an homage. They really put a lot of great engineering into this to really give it that essence of what that L39, modernize it with 12 rounded aperture blades into this. You've got low dispersion elements inside of this. You're going to get better chromatic aberration control. So this is going to be a much better lens for a lot of photographers out there and videographers if you want to use it that way, but it's primarily a photographer's lens. But the essence of that lens, that L39 lens from 1953, is very reminiscent in this. Now, obviously it is a very beautiful lens. It only comes in silver, but it does come in two versions. There's an aluminum version that comes in around 120 grams, so that's extremely light. And this brass version I have here, which is a prototype, comes around 218 grams. Now, I would highly recommend the brass version. 218 grams is still very light for a lens. The aluminum one, I think it's a bit too light. You want a little bit of weight to this. If you want to feel something to this lens, it feels really good on an M camera like the M7 here, where you can adapt it to any other camera, for, let's say a Nikon Z8, which I did with the Tech Art adapter, or even let's say the Leica SL3, you can do that as well. But it fits beautifully here on the M7 that I have positioned here. And also I'll show you what it looks like on the M3 because it's around the same era. I have an M3 from 1954 and it looks absolutely beautiful. In addition to the accessories that come with this lens, you also have a UV filter you can screw onto the front of it, as well as a screw-on hood as well, and lens cap, obviously. So you're going to get a few more accessories in the box, which does make this a very attractive package, especially for the price point. And even if you get the brass lens, which is going to be a bit more expensive than the aluminum one, this is going to come in at a really competitive price point. Outside of how good looking this lens is, what's the image quality like? And the best way to describe this, you've probably seen this in other reviews as well, it has this sort of vintage modern rendering. At f2, it is quite sharp and very well controlled in chromatic aberration and any sort of purple or green fringing. This is going to perform very well on a digital camera system. Now, I do have it mounted here to the M7. It works great on the M7. I'll show you some sample images as well. But when you put it to a digital camera, it's very sharp, got vibrant colors to it, got a nice warmth. It performs beautifully. And of course, when you do stop down, it does get even sharper. But I like the bokeh out of this. Now, for some, you may not like this because it's going to have more character to the bokeh. There'll be some imperfections, but that's what you want out of a vintage-inspired lens. You don't want a lens that's designed like this and looks like something like a perfect Sony or a Nikon lens. You want something that has character, and this definitely has it, but at the same time, it has the sharpness. So if you want to even put this on medium format, which Thypoch is saying you can put this on a Hasselblad 100 megapixel camera, I don't know why you would do that. I guess you could, but you could do it and it would render that sensor well. So I don't know. I mean, for me, the max I really tried it was 60 megapixels with the SL3 from Leica, and of course 45 megapixels with the Z8, and film here with the M7. But I was happy with either film or digital with this. So again, if you like that vintage look, but you want a bit more sharpness, this will be the lens for you. If you want a more modern rendering lens, even through the bokeh, this may not be for you. But for me, personally, absolutely love how it looks. By the way, a few of you have been asking me about my M7 grip here. This is from IDS. This is a grip that attaches to the bottom of it. It's very easy to take off to load up film, and it gives you a lot of support for your M camera system. So they do it for film cameras, also digital M's, and I believe other Leica cameras out there. So do check them out. Big thanks to IDS for passing me this to try it out. I'm liking this thing. What are some things I wish were improved on this lens? Well, first and foremost, the aperture ring on this. It is a declicked aperture ring, which I understand that Thypoch was telling me they wanted to replicate as close as possible to the original, but it is quite smooth and very easy to knock out of any aperture that you want to set it to. So again, they're modernizing the lens in some ways for 2024. I wish they would have modernized it with this as well, because it's very easy to knock it out. Another thing is, with the aluminum version coming around 120 grams versus the brass version around 218 grams, the aluminum version is a bit too light and it feels a bit inexpensive in my personal opinion. Now, I did talk about this at the beginning of this video that I would highly recommend the brass version, even though it is going to be a little bit more in price, because it just feels better all around and it feels like it would match like an M3, for example, or the M7 or any other camera system, it's still very light at 218 grams. And it just gives you that extra heft that makes it just feel a bit more premium. And last but not least, it's a 0.9 meters for your close focusing distance. Now, this is very reminiscent of any vintage lens back in that day. It'd been nice if we were at 0.7. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility, but that one's not a deal breaker per se. I'm used to that when I shoot my vintage lenses, but it would have been nice if they could have done that, if they could have. Again, it's a collapsible lens, so there probably are some engineering limitations that do come inside of that. But just to wrap up this video, I have to say this. I've been reviewing Thypoch lenses for a period of time, and I've heard a lot of you out there talking about the pros and cons of them. And the Samiras are really replicating the 28mm 1.4 Summilux, the 35 1.4 Summilux. This is a new direction for Thypoch, and I like where they're going with this. As a matter of fact, I would like to see more vintage lenses, even if it comes in the Eureka line, to sort of kind of fill out that lens roadmap, so to speak, because what they've done here is really, really nice. And it's, to me personally, it's very close to the Light Lens Lab quality that we've seen from them. And it's really one of the better third-party lenses for Leica that I've seen in a while, especially when you're talking about the vintage design. They've done a fantastic job. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts here on the Eureka 50mm f2. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. More content on the way. Thanks again for the support, and I will chat to you very, very soon. Take care.